Good evening to you, Marianne. We saw you didn't come back for the feast, so we brought you some sweetmeats.
Marianne tried to cram as many words into one breath as she could, for she could see that Salome was determined not to die of gatehouse dust suffocation, and she would not shame her by seeking to appear a martyr. Though Sister Jane had abandoned the gatehouse several seasons ago, the Scroll Mountains and Tome Hills had not. An inch-thick layer of lind coated each one, just as snow would cover a mountain peak. Mariette was sitting cross-legged in the center of a scattering of tomes. The young squirrel maid could not have been older than Salome by more than 3 or 4 seasons, but her scrawny, dried-twig figure made her seem like an ancient creature. At the mention of feast, she seemed to overcome her initial bewilderment and gave the visitors an uncertain smile.
Good evening to you, Marianne. And,
Salome. She's going to be staying at the Abbey.
Marianne reassured her.
Good evening to you, Miss Salome.
She watched as Marianne set the basket before her.
My goodness, a feast! The last time that we had a feast, I was so small I can scarcely remember it.
No, we had a feast last winter.
Marianne reminded her gently.
Remember the little cake Friar Jerome baked for you?
Salome was as surprised as Mariette was confused.
Good Lord, was it that long ago? Samuel and me think a new Abbey beast held a feast every season. Ow!
Marianne nudged her sharply.
We only came to bring you the sweets. We'll be heading off to bed now, if you need rest. We hope to see you tomorrow.
But Mariette had heard none of this. The sight of certain sweetmeats, which I will not describe for fear of annoying the abbess, had transformed her completely. With a whoop of delight, she snatched the paper wrapping apart.
Oh, honey nut clusters! Dear old Friar Jerome, he remembered that these were my favorites!
Soon Marianne and Salome, having forgotten their funeral decorum, were upon the floor giggling uncontrollably. In her eagerness, Mariette had crammed more sweets into her mouth than she was able to chew at once, and her cheeks resembled those of a hamster. Not that either of the two onlookers had ever laid eyes on a hamster before, but after this sight they felt as if they would have no need to. With an effort, Mariette swallowed. Far from being offended at the laughter of the others, she smiled herself.
I suppose my eyes were a bit bigger than my mouth. Or was it my eyes were bigger than my stomach? Oh dear, I can't remember for the life of me. I don't see many phrases like that in the tomes.
Salome's eyes swept over the mountain range of books.
Are you saying you sit about all day reading these?
The very thought sent a spearhead of pain through her skull, or was it the dusty air that was bringing on the headache? Now it was Mariette's turn to laugh.
What's better to do, Miss Salome, when you've been sleeping in the gatehouse for the past 8 seasons?
The past 8 seasons?
Salome exclaimed, oblivious of Marianne, who was giving her a warning look.
Did you get on the abbess's bad side or something?
Mariette recoiled aghast.
What on earth do you mean? Abbess Eleanor is the gentlest, most kind-hearted creature in all of Moss Flower.
Salome thought of the abbess's verbal ferulings, in which gluttony and extravagance seemed to be her favorite words.
Aye,
she said.
The kindest, gentlest creature in all of Moss Flower.
Mariette beamed, relieved.
See, didn't I tell you that you would find her to your liking before you even stepped into this abbey? Of course you didn't believe me. If the abyss was a bit unhappy for a while, it was only because of some misfortunes that had befallen us. Your verminy friends must have given you the wrong idea about our beloved abbess, but it's no wonder. They have low opinions of others being the nasty creatures that they are.
By now, the first parcel of sweetmeats was nearly empty. Glancing over the basket, Salome saw that there was a variety of candied fruits and honey nuts. Not a single cake, tart, or pastry was in sight. Friar Jerome must have known Mariette's sweet preferences very well. Mariette picked the last few nuts from the corner of a parcel.
Oh, dear me. All the sugar has made me deathly thirsty. I'm afraid I drank all the October ale the friar sent me for breakfast.
Marianne was poised to suggest that, after downing all that sugar, Mariette should be content with a drink of water. Survival necessitated that she kept a store of water somewhere in this little hermitage. But Mariette wore such a plaintive expression that Marianne yielded.
Salome and I will fetch a bit of cider, Mariette.
Outside of the gatehouse, Salome and Marianne walked slowly, breaking footpaths through the dew-sodden grass, their paws intertwined.
Marianne, we ain't trudging all the way back to the kitchens, are we? Samuel was acting queer and shouting at me. God's name, I hope she comes out tomorrow. We can't spend the next 2 feast days waiting on her paw and foot.
Marianne nudged her.
Keep your voice down. No, there's bound to be some drinks left out in Great Hall. You pray to God she doesn't come out. The longer she stays in there, the better.
Why?
Marianne kept her eyes on the path before her.
After what happened to her sister, the little squirrel maid Fanley, the friar took pity on Mariette. Like I said before, I was too little to remember Fanley or kill much, but I do remember I was fair blazing over how much petting Mariette got from Friar Jerome. No doubt she deserved it, but she got very little of it from any beast else. Sister Jane says the Mother Abbess was a bright, mellow creature before Kill took Fanley. And she must have been, because if she'd been the way she is now, she'd have shown that varmint the door the first time he stole. But that mellowness was gone with the wind by then. Mariette didn't get no coddling from the Abbess. Anyhow, she used to sit about in the kitchens, and the friar loaded her with sweets. That must have gone on for nearly a season or 2. Then Comely came to the friar, moaning that she'd found heaps of Moritz thrown away food, mouldy as toadstools, and that she was smelling sweets on her breath. When the friar heard that, he fixed up a bowl of oat porridge and a few scones and set them before her, telling her she'd not taste another sweetmeat until she ate that. I remember I passed by and saw her sitting there for at least 3 days, staring at the same bowl of oat porridge and those scones.
Salome wrinkled her snout. Samuel may have been right. This creature was a mad beast to have starved herself for 3 days.
But in the end,
Marianne continued,
Maria ate it. Ugh, that cold oatmeal, all hard and crusty from having been reheated hour after hour, and those awful stale-looking scones. But after that, she asked for the same thing for supper. Everyone figured she was doing it to be saucy. But then she wanted oatmeal and scones at every meal. When the friar couldn't make it for her and told her to eat what every beast else was eating, she went for every scones and bread she could get her paws on. She fell in love with cake and pastries, and she'd pick the filling out of pies to eat the crust. When she could, Mariette spent all of her time eating. When the abbess would toss out lectures on how creatures of Redwall should be helpful and resourceful instead of gorging themselves like pigs at a trough, it didn't seem to faze her a bit. The abbess would have set her to work, except that Sister Bethel looked over her, figured something was wrong with her stomach, and said she was an invalid. For nearly a season, she had Mariette laid up in the infirmary, and fed on her broth, water, and physics. The poor creature grew weakly and sorry-looking, half smothered in those infirmary bedclothes. The friar said she might as well have been let out and allowed to go on stuffing herself sick. But one afternoon, when the friar's back was turned, I decided I had to rescue the poor creature. I snuck in and made up a great towering platter of sweetmeats, and I'm almost ashamed to tell you, Salome, but I made certain the abbess saw it as I carried it to the infirmary. I haven't a clue what she said to Sister Bethel, but a few days later, Mariette was released from the infirmary.
Both young creatures laughed as they entered the abbey building.
As soon as Mariette left the infirmary, she headed straight for Cabin Hall, where the friar and I were clearing up. Some creature had been fool enough to leave a half-eaten scone lying there, and she ate it, slow-like. She didn't beg for more as we thought she would. She just went off and sort of roamed about the abbey. Lying about for so long had given her a slow, tottering step, like she was just learning to walk. She went to the gatehouse and shut herself up in there. And seeing as no beast could get her to come out, the friar started sending Comely with her food every day. I don't think he felt easy with sending me. Now he trusts me a bit more. He almost never sends her bread, but I got to bring her a little cake last winter.
Having found a flask of cordial for Mariette, they returned to the gatehouse. As they entered, Mariette half rose from where she had been sitting, reclined against the wall. She laughed, a high-pitched, giddy-sounding titter.
Good Lord, you startled me! What's this?
Marianne and Salome exchanged a look. Marianne handed Mariette the flask.
We brought you a bit of cordial. You said you were thirsty.
When on earth did I say that?
Mariette peered into the flask as if she suspected that it had been filled with poison. She drew back, gagging.
Ew, what sort of drink is this? Smells awful
Salome leaned in to sniff the mouth of the flask. The drink smelled fine to her. Marianne, however, did not bother to confirm this observation, for she was already edging towards the door.
It was a lovely eve, Mariette, but you must be dreadfully tired. Salome and I will be tripping off to bed now. Good night.
With that, she seized Salome by the shoulder. Within moments they were slamming the gatehouse door behind themselves. That giddy laughter followed them, as if Marianne's farewell had been the most hilarious jest in Mossflower history. As they headed for the Abbey building, Salome murmured to her companion,
"Well, I've seen old ratwives getting tipsy, but this beats all."
Marianne's reply was a fierce whisper.
Hush your mouth. We're going straight to bed, and we're not to lisp a word about this to Friar Jerome.